Hi, welcome to the TMC Newsroom. I'm Greg Galitzine. With me today is Jim Cairns, the Director of Marketing at MultiTech Systems. Jim, welcome.
Thank you, Greg.
So, MultiTech has been around for quite a while, about 4 decades, is that correct?
Right. We're coming up on 40 years in the industry, and our primary focus has been in the M2M space. And what M2M really means is machine-to-machine communication.
Okay.
A great example of that would be if you come across an ATM machine, and that needs to communicate back to a bank to authenticate how much cash that you may have in your account. We facilitate that real-time communication, whether it be an analog line or through cellular communication. So cellular modems would be another way to characterize it. Another series of product lines that we have really address the needs in unified communications, but for this discussion I think we'll focus on the M2M space.
Okay, very good. So how's the M2M solution that MultiTech offers, how's that being deployed in the industry? You mentioned ATM as one example.
Sure, ATM is one example. Most recently we have a solution that was produced by Coulomb Technologies. I think everybody's familiar in these economic times with the stimulus package and the funding that's coming out of Washington. A large segment of that, actually multiple billions, are being dedicated or allocated to electric transport. What that means is, as opposed to cars being fueled and powered by diesel and gas, it's electric. Now the problem that people have encountered in the past preventing mass adoption is once you stray from your house or your business, where are you going to charge that up?
Right.
So Coulomb Technology has created something very similar to a parking meter where you wand your badge and you get it authenticated and you can plug in your car. Now what we do is we enable solutions like that to be networked. So that solution, that electric kiosk for instance, can now communicate back and authenticate the user, right, and decrement from their account essentially their usage. Another great example would be if unfortunately you had an accident and you had needed some biometrics taken of you while you're in the ambulance. We provide real-time communication from that medical device, could be at home, could be in an ambulance used by an EMT, to the attending physician at the ER, so on the receiving end, so that they can be well prepared to understand the situation that you're currently in. So those are just two very tangible examples of what we're doing in that space today.
Excellent. So obviously machine to machine is, I mean, the possibilities are endless, right? There's always two ends to a conversation or a communication. So certainly there's ample opportunity there. How do you see the next 6 to 12 months for MultiTech Systems?
Sure. Well, actually, before I address that, I'd like to cover some of our core differentiators and really the value that we're delivering to the marketplace. Again, we have 4 decades primarily focused on this particular space, so we have a deep understanding of the market needs as well as the ecosystem involved. And why that becomes essential is when you think about communication leveraging off of a cell network, that involves a variety of cellular providers. So it could be Sprint, AT&T, T-Mobile, but the solutions that we're helping to enable are also sold worldwide. So it requires coverage of all of the primary cell carriers worldwide. So what we handle in-house, we do our design, manufacturing, and certification testing and support from a U.S. base outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota, which allows us a high degree of control for quality. But the ecosystem relationships that we've had with the carriers also ensures that we can do the certifications, so our solution providers like Coulomb Technology, for instance, don't need to handle that heavy lifting. And when we bring something to market, it's essentially a plug-and-play operation. They're ready to go. Right. So that again is a key differentiator for us living and breathing in that space for so many years.
Sure. Yeah, there's certainly no substitute for experience, and that's yes, true across all industries, I think.
Yep, most definitely.
So getting back to then to the days ahead, what do we see? What can we see from MultiTech coming down the road?
Well, we're seeing enormous economic enormous economic opportunity in verticals that are directly impacted by the stimulus package. Okay. Right. So if we take a look at what could broadly be termed green technology, right, again, electric car industry, the example that I cited before, or smart grid, and smart grid really just talks about various legs of the utility. So it could be the high voltage transport, or it could be the meter on your house. What we enable in that circumstance is the utilities to have a monitoring device and communicate leveraging off of the cell network, for instance, right, to understand your usage rates so that they can better distribute the power load and operate more efficiently. The end result being that they can still satisfy the same demand while generating less power. Right. Another great example would be alternative energies. So you may have a remote wind power generator, and you need to understand how the performance is of that generator, the performance metrics, and simply enabling that monitoring device, remote monitoring,
Right.
enabling cellular communication, leveraging off of our cellular modems, can do that quite easily.
Excellent. So that's a very green story. It's
Yes,
very
it is.
popular right
It
now.
certainly is.
And certainly you can dispatch technicians too, right? So you can monitor a situation. It can communicate back to the headquarters, and they'll know whether or not they need to dispatch someone without rolling trucks aimlessly.
Exactly. So you're much more efficient on on the usage of your manpower, as well as using less, creating less carbon emissions in supporting what you need to.
Excellent. Well, Jim, thank you very much for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. It's been a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
We've been speaking with Jim Cairns of MultiTech Systems. I'm Greg Galitzine in the TMC Newsroom.